Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole, Lore and Frey, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. So right now, there are a number of game journalists and YouTubers getting excited over Resident Evil 4 Remake coming out in the next couple of weeks. They're not really willing to admit to themselves that the game has a lot of problems yet. This was apparent even from playing the demo, but seeing gameplay footage online, seeing what's happened with the AI and the structure and the pacing. I think they made the island worse. I think they removed one of the bosses. I think they've done this. I think they've done that. I've seen a footage of a guy just standing in front of a Ganados. And he's just looking straight at Leon. There's no barriers in between them or anything. But he's not being aggressive. He's just kind of standing there. You can tell just by looking at the footage that the AI is worse, the game is worse, all the changes they made have been bad. They've stripped away content. They've done all sorts of things, and yet right now we're still in the middle of the hype cycle. Right now, you're still seeing a lot of people getting angry at me, Cody Lee, for pointing this out, for pointing out that this game did not need to be remade, for pointing out this remake is not particularly well made or particularly evolves the original in any way, shape, or form. Right now, the only reason people are hyping this up is because it's the hot new thing to hype up. Right? It's the hot new thing to talk about. The same people who ate up crap like Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil Remake 3, they're going to eat this up too, apparently. And I don't know how much longer this can go on because it really does feel like at this point the hype train has no real momentum behind it. It feels like once the game actually comes out and people actually start talking about it, it's actually going to fall off a cliff. It reminds me a lot of something like Monster Hunter World or something. It feels like it doesn't have any real genuine interest in it. It only exists as a vehicle to weaponize against Nintendo fans. And we're already kind of seeing some YouTubers kind of get kind of snippy about this because Capcom's not allowing them to release certain information. Susie Hunter is has not been allowed to release his video on this. He was bitching about this on Twitter. There was, always read the fine print, guys. Apparently, he doesn't read the contracts. Capcom forced him to take the video down, probably because he went into depth as to what actually is change in this game, things that Capcom does not actually want the public to know, right? Assuming that the leaks, I hate saying leaks, saying the information that I've received about the game is true, there is going to be a lot of underwhelming aspects to this remake, stuff that nobody is really talking about. And of course, I've talked about the pacing problems and just the lack of challenge in the gameplay and just I saw a video of someone a comparison between someone standing in the same spot in both versions of the game in the village, and in the original you can shoot through the door and blast Ganados through that, but in the remake you can't actually do it. It doesn't work in the remake. You can argue that that doesn't matter, that doesn't mean anything, but that's a big part of what made Resident Evil 4 so unique and distinct is that you could tackle situations in a wide variety of ways. Leon had a lot of tools to use in his at his disposal, at his disposal, and it's not exactly it's up to you to figure out how to use them, right? Whether or not you should do this or that. Resident Evil 4 was really good at throwing you into an arena with a bunch of enemies and then having you make the best of whatever you had, right? That's what makes the game great. And for the remake doesn't seem to capture that same feel. Every little bit of content, everything that's changed, all of it is taking away from this iconic masterpiece, the GameCube original. And that's another thing I've been seeing is people denying that Resident Evil 4 was a GameCube exclusive. It was. First of all, this was designed for the GameCube. The inferior PS2 version suffers a lot of frame rate problems and has blurry issues and doesn't look anywhere near as good. So yeah, the GameCube version was the definitive version of the game until the Wii version came out, and that is the definitive version of the game today. So So yeah, this remake, not only did it not capture what made the original so great, it's not even on the platform that made it successful to begin with. Like, talk about disrespecting the fans. Talk about not living up to your iconic legacy and releasing on a real piece of hardware, right? Like, imagine still supporting PlayStation and Xbox in 2023. Like, what exactly are you thinking? Like, why exactly are you supporting irrelevant platforms? Like, just make the game a Switch exclusive. Why is that so hard? I don't understand why we're relegated to ports and spin-offs when really we should be getting like the new high quality, fully featured new Resident Evil games. Not enough people are calling Capcom out on that, but yeah, when it comes to 4 remake, like nothing about this game looks good. At this point, I don't think I'll play it. It reminds me too much of like all the problems I had with like Resident Evil Remake 3, and to a lesser extent Resident Evil Remake 2, which I also did not like. Like nothing about this remake really screams at me that like not only do I think I don't need to get it, I don't even think it needed to be made. Like honestly, like I think Resident Evil 2 remake was a game that needed to exist to a certain extent because 2 Resident Evil 2 is just not a game that like could capture modern audiences' imaginations the same way. But like 4 remake, 4 hasn't aged a day. It really hasn't. It's better than games that come out today. And so like remaking it just for like a cheap cash grab, it really just goes to show you just how like starved of ideas that Capcom is. Like Resident Evil really has run its course as an IP. There's nothing they can do to change it up. There's nothing they can do to like evolve the formula. There's nothing they can do to add to it, or do something new or interesting. It's only coasting along on brand recognition at this point. And eventually, it's all going to come crashing down. Eventually, people are going to stop supporting Resident Evil and move on to more and new interesting things, right? Like that is what we're going to see going forward. Like Resident Evil 4 remake is the Final Fantasy 7 remake of Capcom, of Resident Evil. Like this is the beginning of the end.